Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy. So I'm going to say that this is part of 29 tarot spreads in 29 days, but it's a little different than it's a deck exploration, so actually there's 3 or 4 spreads represented here, or questions I should say. So I've been exploring the Greenwood Tarot through this whole month of 29 tarot spreads in 29 days. And I finally ran out of my own little set of spreads that I normally use. And I may yet do some spreads from 365 Tarot Spreads, the book. But I decided I did need to continue with my exploration. So the first thing I did was I wanted to ask the deck some questions of itself, about itself. So my first question is, who is speaking through you? I just have this feeling that something is, that there's a presence behind the deck that's trying to communicate to me using the deck. That it's not a more general, like my Rider-Waite-Smith, that there's, I don't know how else to describe it than that. So I came up with this question: who is speaking through you? Asking it of the deck. And what I wanted was a major. And what I had planned was that I would shuffle, after having just done a general shuffle and feeling like I was ready, I thought that I would just shuffle and then choose the top card. And if it was not a major, then I would just continue to shuffle. Well, as it turned out, until the top card was a major. And as it turned out, this was first time out the door. This was it, which makes quite a bit of sense because it's been coming up. It came up quite a bit during the month, and I didn't go back through, but I feel like I need to go back through my readings that I did with this deck through the months to see where she came up. So this was not a super exciting thing to come up because I thought, I just don't know. To me, this represented, like, instantly, I was just thinking, all right, so this is representing my relationship either to animals or other living things that are not people, or to the land. And I was just like, do I really need that? Is that those are not the kinds of questions. I've got my dog decks and stuff for, my dogs and things, and so it was actually, although it's an extremely positive card, is a bit of a downer in the sense that it didn't seem like it was something pressing or necessary enough for me to keep the deck. And when I'm doing, not all of them, but some of the deck testing I'll be doing during the course of this year, are decks that it's like, why do I have this deck? What purpose is it serving for me? And much as as I have too many decks because of curiosity and, a love of images and all of those things, in the end I do have to feel like, that the deck has some some eventually someday, it has some form of utility, I guess. Maybe I'll end up tossing my utilitarian tendencies out the window. Um, so this is what came up. And so I wanted more clarity about the messages, because one of the things that I noticed is that this deck does, in the spreads that I've done throughout February, is that the deck can give me messages from something. So I wanted to pursue that a little bit and to explore this a little bit and to kind of undo that initial impression. Let's say, oh, well, that's a good thing, but then, do I really need that? Do I feel the need? Do I consult tarot cards for, how's my land doing? Or, stuff like that. But so I came up with another question. And so the next question was, what knowledge are you wanting to share? Because I also kind of got that impression from this deck. And it makes sense that this came up. Okay, so a lot of the spreads that I've been doing throughout the month have been very kind of me, self-centered, self-exploration things. And just because those are many of the things that come across TarotTube, and they're always just kind of fun and curious to do, and and people enjoy them, and so I had come up with some of my own to make available when I was reading for others. I had them available on my website as options and things like that. They are not the kind of spread that I actually do very much for myself, except to do tags on YouTube, because I'm just sort of over myself. I don't even know how to say it. But I did notice, I don't know, I just felt like this deck, it would give me some interesting things, but it did seem to prefer to give messages that were not about me, messages from elsewhere. And so I had that question. So my first thing that for getting this card was, who is speaking through you? And the second was, what knowledge are you wanting to share? And so I pulled 5 cards because I've just felt like 5 cards is kind of what helps me, that number of cards helps me get a grip on the messages. And so these are the 5 cards. I need to get that oriented here. So it was really curious to me. So one of the things that I've discovered over the course of this month is that this deck gives me, when I was doing prosperity and abundance readings, like I have a 5-card prosperity reading in Ethany's abundance spread, that this deck really did quite well with that and gave me useful information. And so what came out for this question of, what knowledge are you wanting to share? In other words, what knowledge is the green woman wanting to share? To me, this does have to do with kind of a motherly energy. It's like, take the resources that you need that will help you during difficult times. That's why we store wood. I come from Michigan, and I don't even remember when we first got a wood stove, but all of my teen years, we would haul wood. We were wood haulers every week. We were, if not more than that. Anyway, I have fond memories of my sister and I and our straining to together get a wheelbarrow full of wood repeatedly up a hill to our house. So anyway, so that's my association with this, is gathering wood for, to keep yourself warm for difficult times, for cold times. And then here is this lovely card where you can see there's a little smoke coming out of the little hut there, keeping everyone warm. And you could even think, if this is caribou hide here, then again there's kind of a message of, take from me to protect yourself and prosper. And then this card, I know some people really love this card. This card doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it is reflection. All right. So I take that as mental reflection. In other words, kind of, all right, gather your resources and then think about it. Use your resources wisely. So it's like a financially and resource-wise mother figure, which I can't say that I had that. I think my parents together, like my parents were polar opposites. My mother liked to spend, and in the limited investing experience that she had, which was later in life, she went risky. My father is the exact opposite. It's a miracle that they didn't at some point like get divorced over money. It's not like they would fight terribly openly about it, but I mean they just do have opposite approaches. So my dad is conservative, saving, etc. So, and I would say that I can't say that I've saved because I just haven't had much in the way of income, but I do lean toward my father's perspective. But this seems to be a balance. Like it's saying, take what you need. In a sense, that is spending. That is saying, take what you need. There is a storage aspect here. To me, with any firewood, there's a storage aspect. But there's no hesitation here. You take what you need. And same thing here. That there is this, with this King of Cups, when it's take what you need, it's a matter of, there are various indigenous attitudes toward certain animals that they, and I can't remember what it is in the medicine cards. If it's turkey is giveaway medicine. But I think it's the pronghorn antelope was like the philosophy is we are here and we are here for you. And so when we are present, when we offer the opportunity, take it. Take our body. Take, this is the energy. Anyway, so I get that vibe from this in this context. All right. And also just to use resources for comfort and protection. And again, this is a card of winter. I'm sorry, I should have had these down here closer where you could see them a little better. And then, so maybe I'll do this. We have the Ten of Cups, which is happiness, which is again, I mean, this is abundant water. This is abundant flow, and all of these cups are catching it. So it's like, soak in the happiness. Soak in what is being given. And so the overall impression is, that you're being provided with what you need to thrive. And the Sun card was on the bottom of the deck. And that to me is just like an exclamation point. The message is, we're wanting you to see how to use the resources available, offered, in order to be happy and thrive and be prepared for Five of Stones moments. So, really interesting. So, one of the things I came away with was, well, maybe I should do for myself, that monthly, the 5-card prosperity spread. Or when, which I periodically am doing these days, when I'm thinking, all right, should my next money suck? I have a number of things that need to be done on my property and in my house. Which one should come next? Which one of the many things that I really, that are a strain financially, which things what needs to be next? So maybe I should start consulting this deck about those things. And so this has been really curious investigation, because I would never have thought to use this deck in that way initially. But another thing that came up is that, again, with the green woman, and then all of this stuff about resources, and how you use your resources and thinking about resources, etc. And growth, is that it's kind of also an ecology, it's about ecology. But anyway, the overall impression was that it was wanting to give me messages about how to thrive. So, yeah, so very interesting. But I wanted to ask some other questions, just based again on this past month. So, what was the next thing? Okay, I forgot it. I tried a couple or a bunch of different questions that kind of failed. One thing that did work, although I didn't preserve the cards that came up, was how can I help? So I felt that there was something about, relationship to the earth, relationship to the animals, maybe relationship to community. But I'll tell you the questions that didn't work. Who needs my help? Didn't work. How can I contribute to my community? Didn't work. How can I improve my relationship with my land? Didn't work. And when I say didn't work, means that the cards that came up did not speak to me. What did work, when I said, how can I help others? That didn't work. When I said, how can I help? And I think I used Rufus, one of my dogs. Then it gave me useful information. So I had to ask about something specifically close to me. And I think oddly, so how can I improve my relationship with my land didn't work. But when I phrase it as what does my land need? So when I phrase it in terms of helping or needing, that apparently works better or appeals to the green woman inside the green wood. And the question that worked straight out the box the first time was, how do I best prepare for the future with what I have now? So it's not predicting the future, but how do I best prepare for the future with what I have now, with my resources? So I'm finding that very curious. And again, I didn't preserve the cards that came up. So in the spirit of exploring this deck, the next question was, how should I view your animal court cards? Because they've been bugging the heck out of me. And they always have. And the cards that came up were these two. This was actually a semi-popper, but I didn't feel ready to finish shuffling. So this is a card of instruction. So that's what I'm taking, is that the court cards are the instructor. I didn't really take it I could have. I hadn't entertained the idea that the court cards were actually represented something I needed to instruct, like a part of me that I needed to develop or instruct. I could go back and think about it in those terms, or what I was getting out of this dude here was, again, the rising and falling action, or rising and falling energy, because you've got the snake climbing up here and you've got the snake coming down here. So rising and falling energy, which in the end is kind of amusing when you think of an erection. But yeah, like potency rising, potency then releasing, I suppose you might say. And it could be indicating, so there's kind of opposites here, just like, the student and the teacher are complementary roles, often can be perceived as opposites, So I believe that that's telling me that even if I take them as the teacher, that, sometimes I need to question them as though they're reversed. Is this something I need to be learning, or is this something I need to be teaching in a given context? Is this energy rising for me now? Is this energy falling? Is it adequate? Is it inadequate? What is the level of potency associated with that card? So what I then did was I went through the court cards, all of the court cards, and I gave them, like, what is the main teaching? If I just, like, rapidly. So maybe this is where I get my Knight of Swords. when I ask what my primary characteristic is, whenever I do one of those things, it's, what is your primary characteristic as a reader? I get the Knight of Swords, and it's like, God, that's a pretty vicious that's a pretty vicious card to come up for a reader. But it's also a card of speed. So I went through all of them, and I did that. I just wrote down something quick, so I'll do like 3 of them. Salmon, homing. Okay, so it's advice about homing, or teaching about homing. The heron, stillness and perseverance equals manifestation. The wren, lean on your friends. So deer, and this is in the context of this deck, right? The images in this deck. Shine your light, be proudly unique. Reindeer, the importance of family relationships. So this is yet another question. So what happened was I'd done all this, put it aside. That was in an evening. And then was going about my day, and I saw something that has been kind of unusual in the past few years as I was sitting at my desk working. I work from home, sitting at my desk working, and noticed out of my side window a rabbit out in my yard. And I thought, oh, I don't see rabbits very much these days. Maybe I'll go to the greenwood, or I didn't do it immediately. I did it at lunch, and I would ask the greenwood what message rabbit had for me. And it was interesting what came out. For one thing, there were court cards. and it ended up to me not being like what is rabbit as a symbol. So it wasn't just symbolizing rabbits in general. I felt like it was giving me the message of that particular rabbit on my property. which is a little crazy, but here we go. And I'll tell you as we'll go through. All right, so I pulled 5 cards. So Page of Cups. The message, the teaching of this, if we follow this card, the teaching of the Page of Cups is show enthusiasm for every opportunity that comes your way. So I'm just going to go through the cards. You know, this is the 9 of Cups. It's the wish card. It has also been raining here, like insanely raining. You know, it's like, and the Weather Channel, they're giving flash flood warnings, and it's like there is no flash about it. It's continuous. It is a continuous flood. But just looking at this card, I thought gratitude in abundance, gratitude in plenty. And again, that's just a message coming from the rabbit. Leaning on friends. You know, in this card, I see the wren friend, as encouraging this little bird to come up and be a little less shy. And then shine your light proudly, right here. And this I see as escaping harm. So, I mean, this could even be that particular rabbit saying, instead of a ram, a rabbit, saying, I have survived. The rabbits in general in my area have survived. They have suffered various travails. The gratitude and opportunity. Now, I don't even know if rabbits eat peanuts. I don't know, but the other day I had some peanuts that for some reason, no, it wasn't, it was mixed. It was a mixed nuts that wasn't working for me for whatever reason. And so it wasn't a very large amount, but I went on the edge of my property and just scattered them out there. I figured the squirrels would be getting it, but in fact, apparently, it was the rabbits, possibly. Also, in addition to the squirrels, may have found some nuts to nibble on. Again, I think of them as more greens than nuts, but that occurred to me. and I don't technically compost, but I do have a vacant wooded area both behind me and on one side of my property. And so I will often take leavings, vegetables or whatever, and we'll toss them over the side there. Um, so I felt that that's part of what the gratitude was. I'm not sure what this has to do with the rabbits. Um, or this, but that's very clear to me. It's like another thing that happens on the edge of my property is there's a pair of dogs that and sometimes there's more than just the pair that I know routinely case my property. And it's so to me seeing that rabbit is like survivor. Yes. Despite all of the different attempts to eradicate us, not intentionally like anybody's trying to get rid of the rabbits, but between boys with BB guns, actually I don't think that they're clever enough to catch rabbits, but um, the dogs in the area, the coyotes in the area, the area in back of my land used to have an old woods there, and they thought they were going to develop the property, and they stripped the whole thing. It was anyway, and I didn't see many rabbits after that. It was like um, killed everything. Just incredible impact of taking out all of those trees. So yeah, I think the message from that rabbit was, thank you. I'm taking what you're offering, and hey, we're still here. We're still here. So what I then did was I thought, all right, so I got that message, but my first inclination most of the time when I see an animal that I haven't seen in a while, that I don't see every day, is I go to a book, whether it's Animals Speak or this one. Animals Speak book is much more involved, so I grabbed this one because I didn't have that much time today to do this, like I said, at lunchtime. So it says, if rabbit shows up for you, it means this is a very creative time for you. Shine your light brightly. Be unique. Okay. So it's important to quickly take advantage of any opportunity. Right there, enthusiastically. Go for any opportunity that comes your way. Right there. So it's like, it's right in here. Be extra vigilant for the next couple of days. If anything threatening shows up, leave as quickly as possible. There it is. It was so funny when I read it. Try a vegetarian diet for the next few days. I don't think that came up. Rather than steady step-by-step progress, you may see it happen in leaps and bounds, which might be this, but I don't really think that's terribly expressed here. It could be this. You're going to find yourself going through a period of quiet and stillness followed by a burst of intense energy. Express your love freely and readily to those closest to you. That could maybe be this, friends. So I just found that really interesting, the extent to which what was in this book was in harmony with the cards that had come up. So, and I read this afterwards because I wanted to do the exercise and see what I got out of the exercise. And then I thought, well, let me just see what's in the in one of the books anyway, because that's my habit. And I kind of wasn't trusting this entirely. And so it was really interesting. So yeah. So I don't know. I mean, what I'm liking is more using this deck for, like I said, resource, financial, again, oddly enough, types of readings more than, like what's, what message does this rabbit have for me? If I could have a discussion with a little rabbit, what would it tell me? But in the spirit of this, even though this is getting to be a long video, I'm going to go ahead and do another one, because when I thought of that, I thought, okay. So one of the things that had come up for me last year was that I very markedly ended up with a wasp nest, just a paper wasp nest, not very big, on each side of my door, my front door. On each side there were wasp nests, and they actually did not disturb me. I at one point looked them up. They were red paper wasps, and it said something about them being like a more volatile form of wasp, and yet, they were, I don't know, they didn't really disturb me. So I let them be. There was one point that, I don't know, there was one nest that I ended up spraying, but I still ended up with the two on either side of my door. So I thought that I would go ahead and right now ask, with that shuffle right there, I don't know if is there a wasp in here? Ask what the message of the wasps was. The nests have since, over the winter, fallen down, so they're not there anymore. Oh, there is a wasp. All right, I won't look. But I did locate wasp in the book. So let's see what the cards say about what the wasps were, past tense, wanting to communicate. Oh, happiness. Well, they do make little cells. How funny. There should be so many cups. Cups, cups, cups. With a bunch of wasps. Three of stones. Which of course is, it looks like a doorway. It's an archway, it's a doorway. I mean, they could have been talking about, especially with the Ace of Swords here, Ace of Arrows, like a stinger. So part of this, I feel like, is about a happy home. And one of the things I ended up doing, though I wasn't associating it with the wasps, was working on one of my dog's problems with excessive reactivity when somebody knocks at the door or comes into the house. And as I've really started to finally work on that, in other words, somebody knocks at the door, and this is my terrier, and she would just, you know, she becomes possessed. She's insane. Or if somebody comes into the house, again, she's outside of her mind. And I finally have started to resolve that through a variety of attempts and techniques. So maybe that's what they were trying to say. But with this particular Five of Cups is although it looks kind of like a red wasp. Actually, this card to me reminds me of them. But in the little cells of their nest. Is somehow, happy home, nurturing what's in your home, like the wasps nurture and provide for the cells. So it's, taking care of your home. I mean, that's all they do, right? Is they're building up this structure, this nest, which I was working on my own home to some extent. And taking care of what's inside. And it may have been saying too that some of what's inside is not happy, that, there's maybe too much confinement there. So interesting, in the end, I have to think about it quite a bit. But it makes a lot of sense for what went on over the period of time that the nests were there. And in the past, I had looked up red wasp, I think online, or just wasp online, and it said a lot about community. And actually leadership. But this actually makes more sense, especially with them being on either side of my door. All right, so what does Wasp say in the book? Whatever task is before you, jump in and go for it with enthusiasm and determination. I don't really see that here, maybe with the Ace of Arrows, but I don't see that here. And I didn't see that within my life during that time. Consider making a study of sacred geometry and how it applies to your life. I didn't do that, and yet the geometry aspect does have to do with, we've got fractals here, we've got the rectangle here, we've got the archway here. But I would say in my own home, I was thinking in terms of, I think I did some rearranging and sorting, and so I've been very focused on thinking about and changing the internal structure of my home. For the next few weeks, focus on fulfilling your responsibilities and personal obligations. Well, unfortunately, I never feel like I'm terribly free of that anyway. Break out of your routine and do something that's adventurous, unusual, and completely different from what you would ordinarily do. No, didn't do that. If they were encouraging me to do that, I missed it entirely. Lead with your heart, not your mind. Well, this is kind of saying that here. I'm not sure that I did that. But anyway, whatever you've dreamed of doing, put some plans into action that will help you realize them. you know, again, with the structure of the home, you could say I did that, but I would say in general, the cards in this case, when asking about the wasps at my door, the cards that I pulled make better sense as a message than the book did. Now, whether I could have gotten that kind of message in a predictive way instead of in retrospect, I kind of doubt it. Because I was looking at these and thinking about what happened during that period instead of, you know, I think if I had gotten these cards and, you know, in the beginning or middle of the summer, you know, when I was just noticing, hey, I've got wasp nests on both sides of my door, and I had pulled this, would I have gotten those messages out of it? I doubt it. This I can see as being, this is how I was interpreting it for me as an individual, which is I'm not in the mood for romance. Don't come near me or I will sting you. Essentially, I assumed that was the message of the wasp. It's like, all right, I can acknowledge that as far as any sort of relationship attempt with me at this point, you're better off staying away from my door. That part was loud and clear, and that I understood completely. But I can see some of these other things in retrospect as well, having to do more with what was inside of my home and the relation between the inside and the outside of the home and what was happening at my door, which was a crazy, insane little terrier. And the need to apply some Ten of Cups energy maybe to that situation. Throw some water on that terrier, by God. Alrighty. So that's the latest. Again, I'm not sure if that counts for 29 tarot spreads in 29 days. It's a very off-the-cuff set of questions, not really an organized spread. Kind of a deck exploration, a bunny rabbit exploration, and a video that's, once again, way too long. All right, everybody. Take care, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.